do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. I will call this meeting to order tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That just yet. All right. Before we start with board recognition, I would just like to acknowledge our students, our student board representatives are missing in action tonight, hardworking, and headed to state wrestling tomorrow. So it's important for us to make sure we have student voice on the board, and we're just missing them tonight, but wishing them well. And today, for board recognition, I would like to start by honoring some pretty special students. So, from Ording Elementary, would Harper Siller come to the podium? As well as Liam Hale from Ptarmigan. And would Jackson Smith please come? From Ording Middle School, thank you, Jackson. And Callie Storm from Ording High School. This is awesome. So I have some important words to read about each of our students. And students, would you please hang out up there? Because when I'm finished, we'd like to get a picture with all of you. All right. So Harper wave to everybody. Harper was nominated for this month's Agency Superstar Award due to her reaching her stretch goal for math and surpassing her stretch goal for reading on her most recent iReady diagnostic. We also selected her for showing continued resilience while experiencing some unexpected events outside of school. So Harper, congratulations on your accomplishment. We're excited to recognize you tonight. All right, Liam wave to everybody. Liam began the year believing he couldn't read, but after recognizing his strengths, he discovered that he could, and that realization sparked powerful growth. Since then, he has consistently set and achieved personal goals across reading, writing, and math, using reflection to guide his progress and proudly naming his successes. His confidence continues to grow as he challenges himself with new goals, including reading through the entire Magic Treehouse series, which I believe is one of our board favorites. Yes. So, great goal.
And there's a lot of books.
There's a lot of books. Liam is a role model for goal setting and reflection skills, and his teacher and PTR staff are so proud of how far he has already come this year. Awesome job, Liam. All right, Jackson Smith is from Ording Middle School. Way to pre-handle that wave there, Jackson. Thank you. Jackson is part of a college and career exploration small group and consistently takes ownership of his learning. He often asks thoughtful questions that help guide group discussions and encourages others to think more deeply. He regularly makes connections between what we're learning in school and how it applies to life outside of the classroom. And he's willing to help talk through those ideas with his peers. Jackson also excels academically and is an overall respectful, kind, and positive presence in the group. His curiosity, engagement, and willingness to think beyond the classroom really stands out. Wow, those are some great words, Jackson. Congratulations and thank you. All right, Callie. Okay, good. Callie persevered through a math challenge during the solving quadratics unit of study in integrated math. Sorry, I was just wrapping my mind around solving quadratics. Nice job. This is one of the hardest concepts, and in spite of struggles all year with math, she set a goal to master the concept, was serious about getting help by keeping at it, and using all support, and was one of the top students in Mrs. Jayco's Integrated Math 2 classes. She owned her learning so much that she was even teaching others in her class because her confidence grew so much. Her ability to support belonging in her class by supporting other students, coupled with her growth in self-efficacy, is why she has been nominated as our February Agency Student of OHS. So student agency is one of our core values here in the district and an important theme carried through all this year. So we want to recognize our students, congratulate you on your accomplishments, and encourage you to keep going throughout the rest of the year. All right.
Students, would you mind joining the board over in this direction, and we'll want to do a photo with all of you and our school board.
Over to the blue screen, Jeff.
There's enough.
The other ones are there.
Someone's got a few candy.
Awesome, thank you. Squish on in, squeeze tight. Yep. Don't be in the picture.
And then parents, if you want to grab some pictures too, you're more than welcome, but we'll be able to share what we do here shortly.
We're gonna have to
Right, squeeze it in,
sideways
squish it in.
switch. We gotta get in front of the blue screen.
More
So come this way.
More squeezing.
How about Harper and Liam? Do you guys want to take a step forward?
There we go.
There we go.
Get it in.
Okay, you ready?
You ready?
Yep, that looks good. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, love it. Great job, Taylor.
I'm good now.
All right. Yes, parents and students, we'd love for you to stay with us the entire evening, but school's important tomorrow, so please enjoy your families at home.
So since Brittany's leaving, I'm going to tell her thank you for the food drive.
Oh,
Yes,
She's
yes.
the-
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
She's the student council.
it was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Amazing.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because we're
We're
going
gonna
to
recognize
mention
that.
that, so I wanted to make sure
Okay,
I let you know.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Sorry, but I knew.
Thank
that-
you. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Now everyone's so
I know.
back.
What are you guys doing way back there? All right. Next up, I would like to invite our public school employees, officers to the podium, our PSC folks.
You know who you are. She's not here. Nice shirt.
And I don't put my missing link.
Look at this awesome.
Where? Oh, no, it works.
Look at this. You didn't get the memo.
Do you want us to write on your shirt?
Yeah.
Well, we are pleased to welcome Shanna Young, Morgan Massaros, Did I say that correctly? Thank you. Erin Sluka and Amy Swanson from PSC to the podium this evening. Each year, we have the distinct honor of celebrating our exceptional education support professionals during a dedicated week of recognition. While we truly value and appreciate our classified staff every single day, literally every single day, there's never a moment we don't appreciate you. We set aside the week of March 9th through the 13th, 2026 to specifically acknowledge their vital contributions. Tonight, we express our heartfelt thanks for their unwavering commitment, tireless efforts, and the critical role they play in the success of our district and our students. Please join us in saying thank you to our union partners.
And from working in a building, we couldn't go,
It wouldn't happen
we
without
couldn't
them.
go
There's no way.
an hour. We couldn't go a half an hour without them. So, thank you, thank you.
Yes, we absolutely
Yes.
want to do a photo.
Yes,
Did you
and
want to
we
call for
have-
speeches? I'm sure they
oh,
practice. They have some words, I don't know.
I can
The
see you
microphone
now.
is
It's like all over your guys' face. You
Yeah.
guys want to share. I
We
can
will
tell.
say thank you for all your support that you give us. So we do, I think, feel very valued in our school district by our superintendent and school board, and that, I think, right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's-
I feel like you guys listen and, value us, and so, yeah.
Well, your jobs
It doesn't happen everywhere, so.
your jobs are crazy, and I don't know, they're crazy. You guys work hard.
I think you've done them all.
You're in the middle of it. You're in the front lines,
Yep.
for sure, right? So, and all day, every day. Yeah, I totally get it. I know your job's really hard, and I, more than anybody, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would love
We
to
have
do a
some
group
stuff,
photo,
yeah.
and we have tchotchkes for you.
Really nice one.
Squish, squish.
Yeah, okay,
Hold your breath.
ready?
Suck it in.
Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3.
All right. Congrats,
Thank
Miss.
Did they call the vice president?
Thank you, thank you.
Be up there this early tomorrow.
I know, I would be too. Great.
Sir?
That's a good group.
Yes,
That's
yes.
great.
Yep, they're very hard, working, dedicated people.
Thank you.
Yes.
Such a great people. Now you're even further back. Okay. All right. Love celebrating what's happening in our district, as well as special people that we really truly care about. Next up is community and staff comments, and I believe we have one community speaker tonight. So, Eddie, if you would please approach the podium.
Hey guys.
I didn't scroll far enough.
I emailed all of you, I think, earlier with copies of these things, so I brought them just in case someone didn't get one. I can leave them with you guys if you want to go through, highlight, and strike stuff out. But I find it very fitting that you guys recognize all of your union reps here tonight, and I'm here to pitch a union thing to you. So if you guys are unaware what a community workforce agreement is, or a project labor agreement, or a student community workforce agreement, there's a lot of different names. Basically what it says, when we boil it down to brass tacks, if you guys come into an agreement with the local building trades coalition, really simply, we agree not to strike any projects or put any pickets up or do any work stoppages on the job site. And in trade for that, we ask that you guys employ our apprentices and we help your people that are local get into our apprenticeships. Or if we have local workers that live in the community or around the area, we give them priority to get dispatched to work on projects in your district. I'm not gonna go into the brass tacks, I can totally nerd out on this, cause this is like my whole life is dealing with this stuff. But basically just wanna extend the olive branch, ask if we can sit down and have a conversation, not necessarily in a meeting like this, but offline where we can talk about what you guys are interested in something like this, what the building trades are interested in. I have been given authority to speak on behalf of the South Sound Building Trades, even though I'm not an officer there, I'm an officer at Local 86 Ironworkers. But Jared, the financial secretary and the head of the South Sound Building Trades said, you go talk to them about it, bring back whatever you guys come up with, and we'll sign it. So the building trades are really interested in partnering, even though it's just a couple small projects as far as the scale that we're normally looking at. We want to give an opportunity for boarding students to be able to get into good living wage jobs and careers by giving them opportunities in our apprenticeships. So we also want to get people in the community working. I know that there's at least 10 iron workers that live within the district out of Local 86, and I know there's a ton of tradespeople down here that would love to be able to work right next to the house. So if you guys have questions, I can answer them. Like I said, I kind of eat, sleep, and dream these things up. And obviously I know that like the Seattle one is very in-depth, lots of
37 pages.
yeah, lots of, and a lot of it is very, like specific to Seattle, but it's language that we can take, move around and change, add in something, if you guys have a special interest in the area, Helmets to Hard Hat, something like that. And, it's just kind of a boilerplate idea of what we're looking at there, so. I would like to schedule a time to sit down with you guys. I can bring Jared Ross from the building trades, or I can just sit down informally with the board or with Ed or with anybody who kind of wants to talk about how you guys envision this going, if you're interested in it, and kind of share with you what we want to see go on out here too.
Perfect.
So, yeah, if you guys have any, I'll just leave these if you guys want, or do you guys?
I'm a paper person.
Yeah, because I like to look at them, mark them up, highlight them, see what I like, cross out what I don't like, things like that. And you guys all have my contact information from the email I sent, so if you have any questions or you guys are willing to sit down and talk with us, I'd really be interested in that.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay. Eddie was our only speaker tonight, and I have to apologize. I forgot to scroll down. We actually have more to celebrate in our district. And so I'd love to turn it over to the board, please. Share some of that recognition.
There was a couple of things this month that really caught my attention as some of the postings that I had seen out there. And I think the biggest excitement for me was our nutrition services team launching a new tradition of highlighting food as a connection to history and culture. And I'm really proud of our nutrition services program anyway, with the whole farm to table and the scratch-based cooking and all of that. But to recognize that we can actually take culture and history one more step further into our schools and into our students. And I saw that the kids had like orange chicken and some noodle dish. It's
The macaroni
fascinating.
and cheese.
It's just, I just love what they're doing there and extending some of those things. And another one was the school counseling week. Mental health is really important and a side gig of mine, not a gig, but a passion. And I'd just like to extend our sincere appreciation to all of our school counselors across the district for their dedication to supporting students' academic success, social emotional well-being, and future planning. Their work is essential to helping students thrive.
So I'll dovetail with, as part of celebrating culture and national observances, as you said, but we're also going to mention that they did recognition for Black History Month each week of February, featuring notable Black chefs, and Lunar New Year was the other one that the diversity is sharing, and we appreciate that they continue creating inclusive, educational, and engaging experiences for students.
We want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Ording Elementary School students, staff, families, and to their incredible support during the annual Super Bowl, right, food drive, led by OES Student Council since 2017. This year's total items collected, whoa, I skipped a line, hold on. Total drive successful, tripling last year's donations with an impressive 2,342 pounds of food and 3,098 total items collected. Congratulations to Ms. Herman's class for taking first place with 466, earning an ice cream celebration and extra recess. Great job, Cougars.
Go Cougars. I just would like to just thank the tech department. They are the best. I came in as an employee and they had a lot of work to do to shift me over to a school board director. And they jumped right in and got it done and did it very quickly. And just give a shout out to Matt, the supervisor, because you watch Matt work and he's a very good leader because he allows his staff. They all know what they're supposed to do, and you just walk in that room, and they all know what they're doing, and they get right, and they do it, and he doesn't micromanage them, he doesn't have to. They're just a well-oiled machine, man. They know what they're doing, and you watch them walk into a building, and they go right to business, and they know what they're doing. I'm just so impressed by them. They are a really small group, but they're very mighty.
In fact, Matt set up, did you know that our pigs and cows actually have they have a recorder device, so if they're stressed out, if something happens to them, someone will see it. And I actually found Matt down there hooking it all up.
I didn't know we had big cows.
We had our pigs and cows on.
Wow.
And that's the tech department. They're fantastic. They're fantastic.
Even our cows are on.
Yep.
I'll mention Ptarmigan Ridge. Our Ptarmigan Ridge students in leadership recently came together over pizza and purpose. That sounds fun. The group met to enjoy lunch while engaging in meaningful conversations about goals, ideas, and ways that they can continue supporting our school community. Experience like this help develop student voice, leadership skills, and a sense of belonging. So shout out to our Ptarmigan staff for making that possible. And I also wanted to mention it's Career and Technical Education Month. So we've got, super excited for our CTE program. We're going to hear a report today about that. We passed the bond for some new CTE classes, so we have a lot of exciting things happening in that part of the district.
And I wanted to, I know the wrestlers are heading to state tomorrow, and that's kudos to them, and I would be shocked if they didn't come back out with a first place. And same to the girls' basketball team this last week. I was at the game that was at home last Saturday. They played phenomenal. I don't know what the outcome was last night, but not good, I guess. But hey,
That's
great
okay.
job,
That's okay.
because
They
seeing that develop over
Yes.
the years is incredible. So great job to
I
them.
think there's 21 boy wrestlers and 13 girls going to state. Like, that's a phenomenal
lot.
number.
That's awesome.
And the bowling team also,
Yes,
right?
and the bowling team.
With no student reps here, we're not
Right,
gonna
we're
get it,
missing.
so, you know,
That's
need
true.
to add that, so.
Yeah, for
And-
sure.
And Jackson and the music, they're going to someplace,
Oh, I missed that.
you will know. Isn't the music program going to Yakima or something?
They did.
Last week.
Oh,
They
last
went
week they did.
Saturday, Yes. But
Okay.
I was just telling John that, there's two of them that are going to state from
Nice.
from OHS.
Nice.
Well, middle school went.
Middle school went to Yakima to
Yeah.
their big conference, and then, two of our band members are going to state. They had theirs the weekend before.
All right.
For their solo and ensemble.
Because Jackson, I know, had just gone with middle school.
Wow.
Middle school has their own solo and ensemble this Saturday.
Sweet. And I don't want to steal the thunder, because I believe we're going to talk about levy, but this opportunity to thank
Oh, yes.
all of the staff members who rallied and shared what passing a levy meant for them and their students. And so our team here, our staff in our school buildings really helped make that possible. So I know you're going to talk about the community's impact on that vote, but I'd like to recognize staff.
I want to add, so Matt, your video, I know from one of the parents who wasn't going to vote yes, switched them. That was his favorite. That was his favorite.
All right. Did I catch everything this time? I think I got it
No,
this
there's
time.
a lot to celebrate.
We have a lot to celebrate, and I love
Good.
it. It's important. And presenting it here at the board level makes it available by video for our community to watch if they can't be here in person. So just important that we get through recognizing everything that we need to. And with that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent's report.
I appreciate it, but you all did steal some of my thunder. So some of this will be a little bit of a repeat, but that's good news. That means the good news of the district is getting out there. What I'd like to point out is everything that you just celebrated, whether it's the intervention and support systems that are making a difference for kids, technology, clubs, extracurricular activities, all of those are not possible without community support. So we are very grateful. This will make at least 44 years straight where we're able to operate school years with the benefit of community support. Right now, as of the last count, we're trending in the 55%, 55.85 with another count tomorrow, and we expect to certify next week. So we are grateful. You'll see not only messages we put out, but Brittany and I are going to film a little thank you video with some elementary students in the morning to continue that. So once we certify, we intend to put out more positive messages in appreciation of our local community. Wrestling, we sent them off to state today. They are reporting at 5:30 hitting the road. Some positives from that program. Our boys did win tri-state. That is the second year in a row. Very difficult to do. You're competing against the best of the best from several states. Dom, he was not only featured in the Unstoppable article from the TNT here this morning, but he was named Outstanding Wrestler for that tournament. I think this is the most people we've sent. Last year was 24 boys, but we had more girls participate this year. So a lot of kids, 34, qualified for state, and we were able to cheer them on as they headed out today. You are on the WIAA pass list, so you have to go through the pass gate. So a reminder for every state contest, you are on that. So if you'd like to go, it's on the east side of the building. And then we start at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and finals will be at 5 o'clock Saturday. So Mr. Carlson and I, along with a whole lot of other Ording fans, will be there. This was good news of just a few days ago. Mikey Fritz, senior, defending 2A state champ, was named the Giesa Credit Union WIAA Athlete of the Week. So he gets a gift card to Foot Locker and a certificate and positive recognition. Our band, you did mention the Washington Music Educators Conference. Mr. Griebling took all of those students, and to be able to be selected to present, that's the best of the best across the entirety of the state, and to have them selected to present is an incredible honor. And after they're done with the performance, I understand they got to make a few rounds of laser tag over in Yakima, so they got to have some fun while they're at it too. So that's a photo that he sent, and kudos to them for their incredible work. Super Bowl, one of the things that builds efficacy is setting goals and persevering to reach those goals. And those students tripled their goal. The food bank was so impressed, actually shocked. They had to go get a second larger vehicle to load all the food. And the kids couldn't do themselves. So you'll see pictures of not only staff, our classified staff members, myself, loading all those items up and getting it to people in need. And we're going to continue that. Middle school's planning something in March. We want to keep that idea of community service going. That's something that we value from the early grades all the way through high school. PTA Glow Dance, we had filled the gym once again. It was one of the most popular events, which is important for a couple of reasons. Not only that builds really solid foundation for our elementary kids, a place to belong and be, but from a PTA perspective, that's one of their main fundraising avenues, and all of those dollars go right back in to support local youth activities. One of the things that they intend to donate and support this year, again, is 5th grade camp. So all that money comes back in, and we're thankful to the volunteers that worked hours before and hours after making that possible. Youth Empowerment Symposium, I'm bummed Carly and Dallas aren't here. Two of our directors, Director Madigan and Director Fisher, were able to see it in action. We did round 2, where this time we hosted Fife High School, and our students came together, about 40 in total, and planning local school-based service projects around what they're passionate about. And it's how you unlock the word right behind you, the word empowerment. You set a goal, you work toward it, you persevere, and then you see what happens. And we're really excited about the work they've taken on, and we intend for one more get-together. Our 2 high school principals will be coordinating that this spring after our students have had a chance to get going, and then we're going to do a check-in with each other, hold each other accountable, working towards those goals. This is a program that you okayed a couple of years ago, and they're finding continued success. Bowling won the SPSL League Tournament. Natalie was named the top bowler and league MVP. They had a good showing at state, 9th in state. And Aaliyah Draper, she was the 3rd ranked bowler from the West Central District. So a lot of continued success in our bowling program. Kudos to them. What you mentioned the fact we did this. What you missed is how good this actually was. We got to do some cabinet sampling. That mac and cheese was insanely delicious. Again, another program that wouldn't happen without local levy support. If we tried to live within the funding we get from just sales alone, we'd be serving prepackaged beef and bean burritos. And to have scratch-based quality cookies, incredible. And have that purposeful tie to Black History Month is incredible. So we're very grateful to Cassie and her team for what they're doing. That was James Hemming's recipe, with more to come. We're excited about partnerships with our senior center. Stacy put out a call, said our seniors need some help with technology. So she reached out to Principal Carlson, and he worked with his team. And we have club kids from not only Technology Student Association, but also graphic design, committed to working with our seniors on an ongoing basis so they get help with critical technology needs, like the same stuff we all have. How do I get on my email? How do I log into Facebook? That kind of thing. So we're grateful to Ms. Tees and Mr. Mayfield's kiddos for helping. Community has been in our facilities a lot, supporting our winter athletics. We've had lots of senior nights, which is always a big draw for parents and community. With some athletic updates, both boys and girls hoops did qualify or make it to the district tournament. Our boys got knocked out last Saturday. Girls are still alive. Tomorrow night they play in Sequim. So I don't know who's making the trek, but I suspect we're going to have sports fans from Tacoma all the way to Sequim tomorrow cheering on the Cards. We have a proposal probably for you to consider on the table. Flag football has been growing for girls across the league. And so we think there's an opportunity even to add more sports and programs. So we'll be talking to you in May at your retreat about how we can even do more. Bond Oversight Committee, I think this is the last thing. We've had 12 citizens sign up for that. Right now we have Directors Thibodeau and Fisher signed up to join Cliff and myself, Matt and Liz, to provide ongoing updates to those that signed up. So we'll take some next steps to, now that we know who's the who, to set up the first meeting. We'll work on norms and agreements and really what your charge is of that committee over time. And then we'll get in the business of getting those ongoing updates, just like you do, and we'll give that community a chance to have voice and say and input into the process. Brittany's already created the landing page for how we can share minutes or key information, just like you did with the bond task force, to help us design the bond. You're going to want to probably do a similar thing. So we've created the infrastructure. So now that we know who's who, we'll work on an invite on your behalf, and then we'll get the first meeting set probably next month. And we did solicit, Director Freeze did, input for the 16 community members that wanted to say so or input on the design phase. So we have that coordinated and happening. Matt's team, and he'll give you a report in just a little bit. The amount of listening sessions they're trying to do in the next couple months is insane, but that's the right way to do it. You have to capture voice, listen to stakeholders, go out and make visits. So we're full steam ahead, and Matt will share a little bit of update of what he's been up to when we get that far. But that concludes my report for the month, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
We're getting a new school.
No questions. Lots of stuff going on.
Lots of amazing things happening.
Lots of amazing stuff with students and lots of amazing stuff with staff. I tagged Vincent All the
So
kids
cool.
singing his song, it was pretty darn cool. I love that. All right. We are moving on to reports, and our first report of the evening is our facility update with Matt Rumbaugh. Matt is our principal architect from NAC Architecture.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good to see you all again. Let's see here. No. There it goes. Okay.
Actually, I did that.
You did that? Okay. My mouse is jumping ahead. Let's see. Well, while she's mentioned that, I think Ed just mentioned that it has been a quick start to the year, and we're, there we go. And one of those things, there's just a lot of planning and preparation to get us going to be successful over the next few years. So we've been doing a lot of that work. And then wanted to highlight some specific things we've been doing for for both schools and some general things. So for the elementary school, just last week we had our team out, and the staff and educators were so amazing at Orion Elementary, just letting us observe. One of the things that does for us as a design team is gives us more insights so that we can try to be more responsive to what's really happening in the culture at the school and stuff like that. So we'll be able to kind of have a more robust dialogue with the staff thanks to that opportunity for us. And then we have also been scheduling our design committee meetings that's going to, for actually starting next week. So we're going to be scheduling or working with the committee probably for many months, but over the next 2 months quite intensely, to do kind of what we described before as confirming the design we did before, making changes, all those kind of things. So we've started down that road, and next week will really be the official kickoff with a lot of the staff to start that process up again. And then we have been exploring some opportunities to have an open house for the community. We haven't really settled exactly what that looks like yet, but we're getting there. So we're going to be doing that so that we can then broaden the feedback and the communication with more people that way. And then I think Liz mentioned last week, we're still working through some of the additional engineering kind of reports and investigations. So that's getting set up, and some is partially started, and the rest will get started soon. So then I'll jump to the high school. So similarly, we've spent a fair bit of time on the campus over the last week and a half, both us as architectural designers as well as many of our engineers, to understand sort of all the systems. So as we start to think about the first phase of construction at the high school, we want to be understanding not just that phase, but also the entire kind of the future master plan of what could be in the future, as well as we continue development on the redevelopment of the high school. And so that master planning is just about to start also next week. So we have a group of folks who are going to help us kick that off and think through some different options that then we can be able to, share out more broadly as well. So we'll be kicking around ideas, trying to make sense. If you remember a few years ago, we did some of that. We kind of stepped back a little bit, knowing now where we're starting in terms of what's the scope of our initial phase, and saying, okay, let's make sure we're really thinking about this properly.
Matt, sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
Master plan being over the next 3 years, next 5 years, next 10?
So like 20 years.
20 years, okay.
Like imagine, so we're kind of saying, okay, imagine 20 years from now when you have the high school that you really want to have, and we build it over a series of different bond cycles. That's where we're starting from, and then we're looking at, well, how do we get there? What makes sense? So that with each successive bond, we have a plan to follow. And the plan, hopefully, will not be completely rigid, so you have ability to adjust over time, but with the intention of being able to make sure each move you make is smart and thoughtful and works well for the long term. And part of that, and then subsequent to that, we're going to move into the actual more detailed design for the building we're building now, kind of the CTE and science building that we're building now. So that'll follow afterwards. because one of the key decisions is, where should we build it? So I think that's where, I'm gonna skip here, I'm gonna skip to here. We have two rectangles on this is the aerial view of the high school. Those are kind of the two locations that are the most likely locations for the first phase of construction. So if you remember the blue rectangle there that takes over a portion of the elementary playground, that's what we've been looking at and showing all along. But we're also looking at the option of maybe doing it where the grass and kind of that part of that parking lot is, where the orange rectangle is. And again, we wanted to kind of step back, open up our mind a little bit and say, well, what's the possibilities? Those are both realistic possibilities, so we need to then evaluate what do they mean long-term. And that's what we'll be getting feedback from the initial kind of high school planning group that's going to be informing us on what makes sense if we think about this over the next 20 years. Is that kind of, so in the end, we'd want to land on which of these two, right? We have to pick one. We're only building one building now. So that's where we want to land, and we just want to be as smart and thoughtful about landing in the right place.
So it's a question of, do we chip away at the kids' playground or parking?
Yep, there will be impacts to what your current campus during construction either way.
Yep.
There's going to be pros and cons on the initial impact, and then there's going to be pros and cons in terms of how does this help you 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Yep.
If it were option 2, will that affect our entry into 162 there, the light?
No, it's going to be.
Because it's really close.
Yes. Oh, during construction, you mean?
Yeah.
That would be a big challenge. We'd have to make sure we're not impacting that, because we cannot block that, right? That's the main access point. So we would definitely not block that, but that would be a factor to consider.
I'll be interested to hear as you get further in the process, kind of what that thought process is and why one site is more appealing than the other.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to hear.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't you lose some of the high school parking lot also for during construction on that too?
There will be
Option.
impacts to parking during construction in either scenario.
Okay.
So then it's just a matter of, eventually the elementary is going to be in their new building, so, the blue rectangle option 1, you're not too concerned about the elementary playground once they're into their new building. So we'd have to figure out if you did option 2 in orange there, okay, well, what happens with the fact that we've now just eaten up some of the parking lot?
Those are short-term.
For the short term and the long
Problems,
term,
yeah,
you're right.
long-term.
We have,
And we also know that the OES playground is already a small, muddy.
yes.
If I may, for the last 50 years, boards haven't been able to consider a different option other than the spread because of the placement of the Ording Elementary campus. Thinking about the next 50 years, one of the reasons why you told the community we need to do this phase first is because now that changes the scenario and the context of what the future looks like. What I don't think is feasible is doing a build that connects the PAC and the athletic area for the next 50 years, because some of those facilities won't make it that long. They're on their last leg. So now we get to evaluate pros and cons. If we cluster this side, what happens? If we cluster this side, what happens? And part of your May board work session, you'll hear the analysis after all the feedback. So Matt, Liz, and your builder will be able to walk through a conversation with you and city officials about here's what we learned from those listening sessions, and here's what we think makes the most sense and why. So you'll kind of get to see from the CFAC 2021, 22, 23 phase to now what that evolution of thinking was, and be able to provide some final input when we get that far. But it's not going to be realistic to connect all of those ends moving forward.
That's one of the key challenges, is how spread out you are right now, and so how can we improve on that is going to be a key part of the discussion.
But it's good, because the reason why we're so spread out is that there weren't those discussions about
Correct.
how to expand.
Correct.
just go back to, I think, we've mentioned before, but we have started the GCCM selection process, so that stands for General Contractor Construction Manager. So that's who we're looking to bring on now to help us again with many of those intricacies, especially at the high school, of how we're gonna build on this campus that is very, very active. So, that process is going on, and then you should be expecting on March 18th, a request for approving that, selection. So, we're going through the, typical process that school districts across the state go through to be able to select, a GCCM. So we've actually received the initial proposals, or qualifications, I should say, from those contractors, and those will be reviewed shortly, and then we'll be moving to the next stage of the process.
Just, without saying who, 7 very high-quality builders that we would be pleased to work with any of them. So we had a lot of interest, and I think you're gonna be pleased by the time we're ready to make a final recommendation, because we were pleased with the quality of the applicants thus far. But we have some work to do to evaluate and get down to a final pick. But we're gonna be sitting pretty, because we have amazing people that have requested to work here so far.
Great.
And the process will be we're starting with the 7, we'll reduce down to a smaller number that moves to the next stage, and that's kind of the typical approach. Anything else on this? Okay. We talked about that. And then some next steps, again, the design process, we're just about beginning now. GCCM continues. Just a minute ago, your superintendent was talking about the bond oversight committee, so that's definitely in our minds and a key thing that we want to make sure that we're preparing for and kind of doing the right thing with, so I think that's great. We also have been, we're starting our kind of conversations with the city. They've been demonstrating that they want to be great partners, and so we're really excited about that, and so we're going to continue that. You know, permitting is such a key part of any construction project that it's great that we have this ability to start now and kind of move things forward collaboratively, so we're looking forward to that. And then we'll continue to work through just getting everybody on board and signed up to work with us. It's going to be a large team when it's all said and done. I think that's all I have for tonight.
It's really happening.
It is actually happening.
After
yes,
all the
yes.
years we've talked with you, it's really happening.
It's a real thing now.
Kind of nice to have an update that says
Yeah.
this is going on,
Right.
not if then.
Right.
Yeah, great point.
Exciting.
Wow.
I'm really hopeful our
Super excited.
community shows up and participates in some of the design decisions. So, it won't help us to be a Facebook quarterback, try to design from there. So I really hope they engage and participate in whatever open houses and design input opportunities we have before we start construction and not weigh in afterwards.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
Way better in the front end.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we want input, we want to encourage that participation, so, great. Very good, Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. It can stay there, I think, for future reportees.
And we are excited to be working with you as a longtime partner. You've been instrumental in this process, and so to be able to move forward with you, thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Turn the pass for the same things.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt, have a good night. All right, missing our student representative reports, lots of exciting things happening in our schools.
Well, next time we see
Next
them, they'll
time.
tell us all about.
Double
Yeah.
report.
We got double it. yeah.
Double report. All right, December financial report. Everything looked buttoned up tight. I didn't see any questions come forward. Thank you. All right, strategic goal progress. Dr. Lee.
ago, Ed became, well, 5 years ago, he became superintendent. And I remember when we first got together and I'm like, so what are you gonna do? And Ed's like, well, I probably should do some superintendent stuff. And one of those things was for us to really take a look at what the community really wanted out of its schools. And so we developed really this mission, vision, core value statement from that. And the board adopted, which is great, because the mission is really, why do you exist? And it's really deeply embedded in things like, if you look at the words there, it talks about unique interests and talents of students. So we really, that's why we exist. So we're not just an institution that's gonna bring kids in, open up their heads and pour a bunch of stuff in, right? And so the next one was really around our vision, which is, how do we actually expect to make that happen in some way, shape, or form? And so we talked a lot about personal meaning making, and this idea is that who you are as an individual is super important. And those two things came from our community. Those two things they came deeply from this belief that when you send your kid to school, you give a lot of trust to that institution, but there's something that they want more than just for them to do, like this idea around reading, writing, and math, which are super important, but we wanted to produce students to become adults that are gonna be high-performing and good human beings, right? And so this idea around our core values came from the high expectations. We didn't wanna just have a bunch of soft skills when kids left. We want them to be able to function well in society and really do something important with their lives. So all those things came together in this idea of agency, which I gotta tell you, 5 years ago, I would have never dreamt of having an agency award and having kids line up here and get an award for their agency in schools. I'm still soaking that in. So that's pretty impressive, because I remember 5 years ago when we talked about, really this idea around agency, people were like, what's that? And I remember talking to the board about that, because we brought up agency and some of the questions were like, well, what does that mean? I don't think we have to worry about that anymore. We have a clear vision of what that is. And so the idea is, how do we measure that? How do we have tangible results moving forward? And this year, at the end of this year, we get to actually come up with maybe a new version of our strategic plan. And so I expect us to really think differently about agency, think differently about our 4 goals, but how we measure them, that might be part of that. And so we have this year-long plan where we're laying these things out. And we're kind of in the time of year when we get a lot of school presentations. And so a lot of the questions I'm sure you're gonna ask me around social emotional learning are gonna be answered by the schools. And so that's really important to keep in mind, because remember, all of you are instructional leaders. Remember that? I know, and Melissa's like, I don't think so, but the reality is, you have to be, yeah. No, it's good. It can't be terrifying. It has to be like exciting, right? And so one of our strategic goals is really around social emotional learning. And to really measure that is actually pretty difficult. The way we're looking at it currently is really looking at this survey called Panorama that kids take 3 times a year. And we're also looking at regular attendance, how often do students come to school, and then really looking at that 9th grade on track for graduation. Those are the 3 measures that we came up with along the way, so that we can say, how are students really doing social emotionally, and are they connecting with the education and instruction that we want? And for us, it's really about, if students feel the agency, then they're probably gonna come to school, and they're probably gonna learn and probably feel good about it, right? And so for Panorama, this idea is, it's a nationally normed test survey that we give to kids 3 times a year, and it's directly connected, at least really when we think about self-efficacy, it's directly connected to this idea around growth mindset. And those 2 things, as research is coming out more and more, are directly related to rigorous learning. And you'll probably see some of our scores in terms of Panorama, the self-reported part, have dropped a little bit. Well, actually, that's not necessarily a bad sign. It's a sign that we probably need to provide more supports for kids. But as rigor goes up, guess what's gonna happen to people's self-efficacy, what they believe they can get done, right? As things become harder, we start having to have more supports around, how am I gonna get that done? Can I really learn at high levels? Those kind of things. So there's 3 ways for us to really look at our Panorama data. It's administered to our younger students. Teachers are the ones that sit down and actually give a perception, right? Based on what they know about their students, based on their interactions with them in grades K through 2, they're rating their self-efficacy and their ideas about their mindset, their growth mindset. In grades 3 and 5 and 6 and 12, the questions are exactly the same for kids, but how they norm reference, in other words, who they compare them to, is different, because grade 3 and 5, they compare those to all the other 3rd through 5th graders in the nation, and 6 through 12, they compare them to all the middle school and high school kids throughout the nation. And so for us, really looking at social emotional learning, we're gonna focus exclusively on self-efficacy and growth mindset, and that looks a little bit different in grades K-12. We call it GRIT, than it does in grades 3, 5, and 6, 12. So I wanted to mention that to you. So So our elementary is broken up. Remember kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. I wanted to show you a historical sort of trend because it's way up. And so the question is why? Well, hopefully, not hopefully, it will happen. So when you visit elementary schools, they're going to show you why. And they're going to put kids' voice in that. So when kids are speaking up, they're going to tell you in their own voice, like, why is it that they're reporting that they can do hard things? And by the way, I've been to the elementary schools a bunch of times, and that's a saying there. They're bringing up all the time, we can do hard things. And at first I'm like, that's kind of corny. But the more I get to it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, because kids are starting to believe it. You say it enough,
Yeah.
and eventually the kids are going to start picking up. The great thing about kindergarten, first and second grade is that they're much more malleable. That if you want to do change, it actually works way better because they don't have the history experience that these other kids. It's like old people versus young people, right? And my daughter says I'm getting old, and the older I get, the more crotchety I get, and I'm getting harder to change. It's true, right? Because we have all this history, and we're connected to that. But same thing happens in schools. So if you look at third and through fifth grade, what is their self-advocacy results? There's a couple areas in there that are fairly low, but if you remember how you look at these, there's that curve, and that curve represents there's like over 1 million kids that take this 3 times a year, right? And so those 1 million kids, when they took it, where do they fall in terms of the self-reported part? Now this is 100% self-reported, so it's not like they're sitting down and doing math for this, right? They're actually saying, where am I compared to like the question, right? And so the curve represents everybody else, and the line represents where did our students generally, where did they report? And so we're kind of in the upper end of that curve, right? Think about 3rd through 5th grade self-efficacy. We're actually the upper end of that curve. That's good news, right? Does that mean that we are perfect and we're doing great? No, because if you take a look at the actual results, and I wanted to give you the questions this time, what that looked like, those questions actually determine like how students feel about the learning. And one that really sticks out to me the most is like when I'm giving something really, really hard, can I do it? And that's important because how you feel and how you approach the work is how rigorous something is, right? And so if I feel like I can do everything all the time, that's wonderful, but probably the sign is that we need to actually up the rigor and up the support at the same time. So those low results, believe it or not, even though they're norm reference across the country, we're doing better in a lot of ways, especially in elementary school. It's a sign that our rigor is going up. So that's great. So things, and rigor, by the way, is not just hard, right? It's doing things that are grade level, that challenge students in a way that they can actually connect with and understand, right?
Is this data beginning of the year, or now? What the data on the screen is?
So the data on the screen is we took a winter panorama, so
Okay,
right
so
around
it's
January.
Okay,
And so the comparison, the arrows go up and down, it's in comparison to what happened in the fall, right?
okay,
So we give it in the fall, and then we give it winter, and then we'll do another one in the spring. And so when we get together in spring, and really talk about the measures of social emotional learning, we'll have the new panorama
Right.
data. And we also have historical panorama data over, like, I think 3 years now we've been doing this.
yeah.
And so we can take a look at how are we doing overall. And I gotta tell you that, especially in elementary, that curve, like when we first started, we were way to the left of that curve, and over time, we've been moving up. So I gotta say that our elementaries are just killing it right now, so it's a good sign. Yes, ma'am.
I understand I made the error of thinking that we wanted to get these percentages to 100%. But as you've just described, if rigor is increasing along with that, then that's an unrealistic goal.
Probably.
And so my question, you don't have to answer this because I'm putting you on the spot now, but over time, as I learn more and more about this, I would love to understand, like, what would a percentage look like that we've done exceedingly well? And how do we identify then areas where we need to focus more growth on? So
It's a great question. So
I'm just realizing that I didn't quite grasp the percentages like I should have. So anyway, teach me as we go, please.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the idea is it's not a static, or they call it benchmark. Like, we don't say kids have to get above 80% for us to be all good, right?
Right.
So it's in relation to all the other students of that same age around the entire nation, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, this is becoming a worldwide, so I can even say across the world.
Yeah.
And so it's a relative measure.
Yeah.
And so if our students are relatively reporting that they feel more self-efficacy than others, then they're getting the support they need, and at the same time, with the academic growth, we're providing the rigor that they need, right? And so like a great example is, like, as we develop, I'm working with principals next Wednesday, because all of them have selected an academic focus around academic vocabulary, right? Now, academic vocabulary is not memorizing a bunch of things, but what it does is it provides access to rigor. And so as we get better at academic vocabulary, you're gonna see kids feeling like they can actually conquer a lot more in terms of hard stuff, right? And so it's a tool that allows us to really kind of narrow down like what we should be doing with students, right? And but it's a relative measure. And I wish I could tell you, if we were just like 85% across the board, we'd be like, awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just not how it works. Not only that, but it changes. Like every time they administer the test, that curve sort of shifts along the way.
Yeah.
Like if I was to give you data from like during COVID, that curve would have been really low, and our kids probably would have been somewhere in that curve, right?
Right.
But it's sort of situational as we move through things.
Makes sense.
Because that curve's slowly moving
Right.
up
You'd hope.
at that point, plus where we're at, we're hoping that it's moving the same.
Right. And what we're trying to do is really connect rigor to how students feel about it, right? And that self-reported piece is super important, because how you feel, especially as a young person, really determines your learning in a lot of ways. And for most of my career, we ignored that, right? We're like, you come to school, you shut up, you sit in a row, and how you feel, as long as you behave, we don't care about, right? So, but that, we've realized, the research around academic performance, is that students who feel self-efficacy and really believe that they can do things can, right? It's really weird how that works, right? And we're talking about every performance level, so we can do all the intervention we want in the world, unless we are working on how students feel about it, it just won't get there. That sounds very soft skill, kind of flowery, but it's just, there's no way to avoid it. There's no way to avoid it, especially as kids come in from this next generation. They're just different.
Actually, we heard it tonight, and we heard it 2 weeks ago from the high school students, the kids that have talked about how they've really grown and gained from being way behind, and the vocabulary that you heard from them, the feelings you heard from them were that, well, now they believed in themselves.
Yeah, and it is directly linked to rigor. So the better you feel about the learning, and the more you feel like you can do really, really hard things, the more likely it is that you're gonna learn at high levels. And it's directly correlated.
And I love it that we never lower the standard, we continue to keep rising the bar, because kids will rise to it. If we give them the resources to get there, they will do it every single time.
Oh, yeah.
So we always raise that bar and keep going up, because they're gonna go there.
Yeah, high expectations. That's when Ed was doing his superintendent stuff. That's what we were told time and time again. Do not lower your expectations, have high expectations for kids. But don't forget they're human beings. And you do that through the route of really seeing them, like who they are, being visible, those kind of things. And that's where the agency is coming in. It's super important. And just as a system, we're getting a much clearer idea of what agency actually looks like instructionally. And this is part of that connection.
But as a board member, playing the long game, I've been here how long? We always argue about this, 8, 9, 10 years. I shouldn't expect in the next 10 years to see that needle move up towards 100%. So the long game shows that we should be maybe like just to ride a center and keep with that, because that means our rigor and our students and how they're feeling about their abilities are leveling up.
Well, you also have to remember, kids have those plateaus, they have those
Yes,
valleys, they have
right.
those, so, each kid, there's gonna have, they're gonna have changes in that too, or communities, like the flooding.
Right,
All those things,
Build
we
into
have our
that.
ebbs and flows.
Yep, and new students coming into that system as well.
And you have new subject matter that you might have to, like the difference between
Curriculum
when you
change and-
are through with one thing and now you're suddenly into something new and hard. So as long as you're learning, you're gonna go up and down. I've always thought.
Yeah. And for us, it's a tool for us to really kind of get insight on where kids are. And how we can provide support around that.
Okay,
And the other side, right, also is as a staff too, you're still learning that side of it too. So it's not just student, it's like all of us that are going through this, right?
board members figuring
Board-
it out.
Well, it's also like, you know, a lot of times I think we love to think that what we do is a science, right? Like if we just do these 3 things, we're gonna get those results, but it just doesn't work that way. And this recognizes that idea is that people are, you know, they're people. Some are really easy to move, some are really hard to move, depends on where they are in their lives. But we're in the human business, we're not in the tire making business. We're not a factory. And so we have to really consider the human element of, you know, teaching and learning. This is what we're doing, so. Here are the 6th through 12th grade self-efficacy and growth mindset elements. So you see that some of them are kind of plateaued a little bit. And the principals will tell you that, hey, sometimes the kids take it seriously, sometimes they don't. But the reality is this is a great data point for discussions, right? As a staff and really looking at goal setting with kids. Because if you set a goal as a student and really thinking about your own, can you actually have, you know, some sort of like difficulty in your learning? And then define what that is and say, well, I'm gonna persevere in spite of that, then I think that's a really good way to really think about education. So we're good on that. So the next step is really on regular attendance. That's our next really connection with that. Regular attendance is something that is absolutely vital because if kids aren't here, it's really hard to teach them. One thing that COVID taught me is I thought that attendance was sort of overrated, just as a measure overall. But when students didn't come and they weren't together in a place, our performance like dropped. And there was no other way to think. It was one of the great social experiments in terms of attendance. Like, do you have to be present with other kids in a classroom with a teacher? Like, is that important? And the answer is absolutely. And so when kids don't come to school, what ends up happening is they miss a lot. And there's a lot of studies that talk about like how much learning is lost within a day of school. Well, if you miss 1 day of school, you actually are behind by 2 days. Because you missed that day, and when you come back, you have to make it up, right? And so for every day you miss, you lose 2 days of learning. And so when we talk about like chronic absenteeism, we're talking about a lot of days within a school year. Like if you miss more than 9 in a semester, add that up. That's 18 days you gotta make up somehow, some way, right? And not only that, but you weren't there for the interaction, for the learning, the things we're talking about are really important. And so attendance is super important, like how many lessons you miss, like how often you connect with other people. And there's a lot of things that just being present, this is why we talk about like in special education, making sure that kids are in core, that we don't separate them out, that we get them there because there is something special about being together learning, right? We are social animals and we have to learn, we have to co-create, we have to think together, we have to get feedback and collect those things together. We have to do it. And COVID proved it time and time again. So this is a really important measure for us when we think about social emotional learning and connection. And so this is last year's attendance data. It's actually up. And so we've made lots of improvements. Ording Elementary School, I gotta tell you, it's killed it. And you know, something to really ask Connie is like, how do they do that? I have some notions about what that is. I know there's really strong communication there. I know that they've done a lot of work in terms of like making kids feel welcome, that they're there, and inviting parents within that and sharing what's out there. But there's things around rigor, and you're probably thinking, well, making things harder, doesn't that make kids like want to not come? And it's the opposite. Like when you make things like you provide challenge to students, they really want to come, and that's across our board. So I know that Ording Elementary School has the highest data, but we've done that across our board. And attendance is a reflection, I think, a lot of how much the community supports us as well. So we need to work on that right along the way. But we've done some great things in terms of attendance.
Just brief note, board on the youth empowerment work, one of the pieces that our high school group wanted to tackle working with Mr. Carlson is that attendance from an engagement perspective and really work with staff to make sure school is a place where everyone feels welcome, they have voice, and they're engaged. So there's a parallel to that youth empowerment work and trying to tackle the attendance and really the instructional goals around that SMART idea that Matt shared with you and bringing those worlds together. So they're making an intentional, purposeful focus there, and we're really excited to see what they do with that.
Yeah, and there's a version of that at every school. Like they're all actively working on it with things that I think are ingenious and brilliant. So you see that brilliance every time you go to a school. I know you do. Yeah, so if you look at our trends overall, so I'm comparing our just overall district to the Washington State trend. So I think that if you look at us, like we've actually gotten better over time, whereas the state has kind of plateaued. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think something's working, right? And you can compare us really in Ording, and this is by grade level, to how the grade levels do across the state. Again, elementary is doing really, really well, but we're pretty close everywhere else. We've seen some growth overall, like in terms of how often kids are coming to school, which is great, right? Big celebration, just getting them here. The last really measure we're going to talk about tonight is thinking about ninth graders on track. When we came up with a 24 credit requirement for students to graduate, that meant they can't fail a class, right? It's that tight. And so when they fail a class, they are now considered to be off track to graduate. And so this data point is really like how many of our ninth graders between the beginning of the year and now have failed a class, right? And so that's really what the report is about. So if you look at currently, this is just this year's data. So how many of our ninth graders are off track? There are currently 43 students who aren't or failed at least one class, and that's 19.6%. 80.4%, which is 176 students, are still on track to graduate. Now, the thing that I'm really impressed about the high school is that in spite of this, their graduation rate is in the high 90s. And so the intervention systems at the high school are just phenomenal. And they take kids that come in behind and they actually do amazing, amazing work. So pretty impressed by that. And so if you want to look at the trend over time compared to Washington State, again, look at us. We're on the top there. Our trend's on upward. That's good. Way to go, Carlson. Drunky. You take credit for it anyway. Right. And if you look at the state, it's kind of plateaued overall. So, all right. Well, let's. I just wanted to go back to here's our measures for the year, and so we'll see. You'll experience some school reports along the way. We'll come back and talk about the Washington School Improvement Framework, which is a lot of different measures that come together all at once to kind of see where we are on that. And then we'll actually come back and look at our strategic plan together, which I'm really excited for in the spring and for us to talk about those measures again. So, questions?
I have a comment. I was at the high school picking up some papers, and Katie Denner is the homework club advisor. And she was so dang excited because she was talking about, I had 17 kids in there today. And her enthusiasm, she was so excited. 17 kids and I'm working hard with them. And this one kid came up and told me that I just increased by 3 levels or something. And that's all she could talk about was how great these kids were doing in homework club, right? I'm like, I love that. Like, who wouldn't want to be in there with her? Right? She's so exciting and she's so positive and pushing the kid forward. Who wouldn't want to be in there with her? Like, and so 17 kids were in there and she was so excited. I can hardly wait for more. Right? I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That's a para. Like, that's a para that is just going after it.
Yeah, that's the ordering difference, I would say, between us and everybody else right there.
I was going to say also, it really kind of light bulb for me tonight when you're talking about the graduation rate versus ninth grade on track. And when we were at the last meeting at the high school, and we got to hear, I don't know the name of that program, but it made it really, the scheduling really easy for kids to go in and get help. So those support systems that are put in place there. Yeah, and that was just a big, there it is, you know? It's you hear about it and that's great when we're there at the high school and listening to the presentation and listening to the teachers specifically talk about how great that is and how many kids they can get in, and it makes it easy for the kids. And then to see that nearly 20%, you know, not on track, but yet we have a graduation rate at the high school that far exceeds what is on track right now, and that's why. That's pretty exciting. And I love it when light bulbs go off and the connection. That's awesome.
We have a lot of brilliance in our schools.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Some good people.
So I listen as board president and through my conversations with Ed about goals and measures as we move forward with our strategic plan, and I listen for things that, you know, do we need to adjust it over time? Do we need to add different measures? And whole child is a really important part of our strategic plan. And so as we visit the schools over the next couple of months, and then we get into May, where we have our strategic plan discussions again, are there things we want to continue focusing on, or new measures, or, you know, how do we keep this a living, breathing document that evolves with our staff and our students. And so that's as I'm like, I feel like we've been talking about Panorama for a while now, and that just clicked for me tonight. So I just want to ask the board to please be thinking as we head into May. What new ways do you want to understand whole child? And maybe there's not new ways. Maybe what we're doing today is meeting our needs and meeting our students' needs. So I appreciate you ending on kind of that long-term view and that where we're at in the process. So,
Yeah, go ordering, right?
yeah, go Ording.
We're taking care of it.
I love it. Oh, good work. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, nice job.
There's no segue to go from that. Speaking of great results, let's talk about Cataclysmic Lahar.
Things that will disrupt our strategic plan.
Right.
So, for those of you who don't know, this is new learning for me. I've done the Lahar, I think this is my 25th Lahar drill. So we're a member of EPIC, which is a coalition that's really Eastern Pierce County Interlocal Coalition of Emergency Management that centers around the Lahar drill. I did not understand like the rock star status that Ording School District has in this huge organization. USGS talks about us all the time. We have USGS coming on March 25th to the middle school, and they're going to do a community presentation about Lahars and what they mean. They've asked if they can bring a bunch of scientists to do a community watch of Dante's Peak to like debunk rumors that are in it. They thought it was really neat.
Is that a good idea?
Not to
But-
terrify
I don't
everyone.
know.
They have a lot of fun with it. We have the most, I'm told we have the most monitored mountain in the world in Mount Rainier. And in that, we are the most looked at community in that mountain. So it was real new to me how much we look at this. So they're really interested in the route we take. We had to have an air operations meeting last week. Chief Gabrelik actually led it because we have over 16 professional drones that are flying over Ording, and they have to start assigning flight paths because we have so much drone activity in our area for our Lahar.
The Lahar?
Yeah. People come from other countries every year. They'll be coming again this year to witness. A lot of people want to come and watch and experience for different things that are happening. But this year, something Chief Gabrelik and I talked about was, you guys know the Lahar route, so I'm not going to go over the whole Lahar route, but we talked about what happens on the bridge if traffic does get over the Calistoga Bridge on the way out of town. More than likely, after that bottleneck, there's going to be probably some traffic misbehavior on the other side of that. And so Chief we were talking about, do our kids know an alternate route if we get across that bridge and there are people jumping and driving on the sidewalk? We don't want to send our kids through that. We have a lot of kids that are no longer in the city core that maybe don't know our city as well. So we came up with an alternate route that we're going to educate our kids on this year. We walked it. I worked with the city, worked with the Bethel School District just 2 weeks ago with my colleague up there, working on Bethel. What does it really look like if over 2,000 kids show up? Who's going to take over incident command? How are we going to feed our children? We're looking at alternate sites up there to take our kids and have reunification. We've created reunification boxes at all of our schools. An extra one for up at the quarry. City of Ording has worked to get us a metal container up there, so we'll have one up there with supplies, reunification kit. In case one of us is not able to make up there for emergency command, Bethel can take over our reunification with our families. So we're working with Bethel to get that done. But just real quick, Bonnie's going to cycle through the Lahar route. So to orient you, everyone knows where they're at. We're kind of hovering over the new Calistoga development there, looking at our bridge. You see that? So we know we walk through town with 2 of our schools, and then we walk down the levee with the other 2 schools. So go ahead, next arrow. So we all come over the bridge right here, and this is where we would break off to take an alternate route. We turn left and hit the levee. Go ahead and go to the next arrow. And we would go right down the levee, so we would never enter onto traffic. Again, this is an alternate route. This is not the fastest route. This is not the route we'd have our kids take.
Cliff, are you on the town side of the river? What do you
Other
say?
side. So see the yellow
The
line?
far side, okay.
Yeah, in fact, if you want to hit it one more time, she'll fly the route.
Gotcha.
And then here we are behind Hidden Lakes. And see
Okay.
those
Okay.
paths? Those nice dry paths you can walk through? Me, Chief Gabrelik, and Tim from the city walked that just about a month and a half ago prior to the floods. And that was a very viable walk for all of our kids, that we could walk that and teach all the kids. I went there last week. It's currently underwater. So we'll see how much it dries. We might have just a few set of kids to get some times in. Or we might have none of the kids and just teach them this path in classes. But we want our kids to learn an alternate path. so they can make independent decisions in an emergency situation and get themselves to safety. So then hit the next one, we'll go through the development and come out right before the soldiers' home at the end of that development. One more arrow, we're done. And I'll just give you what it looks like, completely the difference. It's a little bit of a jog. It would take a little bit longer, but we need our kids when they come over that bridge or whatever staff are available, because more than likely police and emergency will not be there, to be able to make a call to go, it's not safe, don't go there, let's take the alternate path. I think it'll give families a little bit of assurance that we're teaching kids alternate ways and trying to educate them on what they can do. Other things, communication, ethic. There was one more. I think that's the last changes here. So any questions on the Lahar route? We're going to be doing it, we'll make a day-to-day decision, probably a week before we'll make the final decision where we're walking, but we're not going to have kids tramping through mud and water, so we might just take maybe a high school PE class that's prepared to take the long route, just give us time. That was the last thing. I've worked with our tech department, speaking of our amazing tech department, on RFID tags. We're not tagging children, but similar to like a 5K race, we'd like to RFID our teachers' backpacks, so we can have live data and live, and the Epic's really, we're the only ones that time our kids and get data. Everyone else is worried about timing the kids. We can find out what teachers made it, so we know what classes, when they got there. In the event of emergency, we can have that RFID, because we've switched our emergency internet over to Starlink. So in the event of emergency, we will have Starlink activated up there, so we'll have real-time data. Ed he'll head to the Puyallup Emergency Operations Center, and he'll know what teachers have arrived, so ideally what classes are arriving and what kids have made it to safety. So we've added that this year too.
Very cool, that's good.
Any questions for me on the hard drive?
I'll volunteer for the bridge. I love that spot.
Yeah, you're on the bridge?
I love that spot, it's great.
Yep, Bonnie is on it. Bonnie's crucial in the hard drill. I'm learning how much Bonnie does. This is one of the things that Bonnie has a huge part of, so thank you to her.
Yeah, I'm excited we're doing the full drill this year.
Yeah, every other years we're trying to do it, just keep kids educated, but not over drill it to where.
Right.
Yeah, they were
Tennis
getting
runs.
to the point where they're like, I've
Right.
done this.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, by the time you've got a kindergartner who's now in
Yeah.
the high school, they've done it a lot.
Yeah.
But as our district grows, there's a lot of kids who this will be their first time, so.
Yeah, with our new developments, I think people, knowing that their kids know a route out and what the times are.
Cool. Okay,
Thanks, guys.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have prepared by, it's our budget planning process and timeline. So that was prepared by, for your review, and there's no way I'm going to disrupt that process. I do not have any feedback or questions or comment. No. Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Marcy.
Yes,
And
thank
Bonnie,
you.
thank you.
I have to give credit, it's actually Carrie that I stole Carrie's work.
Oh, well, Carrie, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Well-oiled machine, that is. Next report is our insurance report, again prepared by Director Bannon. No questions on that one? Thank you.
No, but I learned a lot from that unemployment insurance one.
I
that
know.
didn't realize.
So did
So
I.
thank you.
Sometimes I question, I'm like, why are we reviewing this annually as a board? I question that, and then I read it and I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why. So, next up, prepared by Dr. Lee, we've got a board memo, withdrawal prior to graduation. And as I recall, those numbers are pretty comparable year over year, pretty familiar. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me. All good. And then our first action of the evening is second reading of a number of board policies and procedures, and I will take a motion for those.
I move to approve the second reading of policy considerations.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we have our consent agenda. More field trips. Talk about attendance data. No, I'm kidding. Those count.
Oh, didn't say where the global conference was.
I looked that up, Florida.
Ooh.
Yes, it's
Oh,
a big trip for our kids.
well, that was my question.
All right, I will take a motion for items 1 through 8 on the consent agenda.
I move to approve items 1 through 8 on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then our action items for this evening. First one is the contract for Alliance Management Agreement. That is the support from Liz. It is quite the contract, and I'm grateful for the services.
Yes.
So I'll take a motion on that.
I move to accept the Alliance Construction Management Agreement as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we have our career and technical program. This is presented by Matt Carlson and Chris Hunke.
I feel like we need to clap or something.
Well, thank you, board. We did not come with PowerPoint. We did come, however, with some exciting news. I came with some exciting news. So, I've been CT director for the past, this is year 7. And so when I became principal, I didn't want to just, hey, Chris, you want to become CT director? Because that's how it worked with me. My predecessor over there. It's a big learning curve. So, very excited to have Chris on board. Chris has been an amazing add to our staff and to our school community. Chris, I met with him after he got hired shortly, and I said, hey, so we got this thing called CTE. Would you be interested in going to get your CT certificate? And I don't have a CT director certificate. It's kind of an interesting thing, and pre-COVID, it all got blown up during COVID, and so I didn't end up pursuing that. But Chris agreed to do that. So Chris has been attending class all year and becoming our CT director, and is more than halfway through his program now, and has done site visits around the state. He's attended classes. He's doing that all on his own. And so I'm very proud of Chris and the work that he's done. So he's going to share some of the highlights tonight that are in your board report. And it satisfies the requirement that he has as part of his program.
I love those two first.
But the one thing I'll say is, it's just been really nice to be able to have a thought partner and then begin to hand off the program and know that I can trust him, and he's doing an amazing job. The other thing I wanted you to just really quickly know from my seat is, as we've grown our CTE programs, which is exciting, we have more kids participating, not just in classes, but also in our after-school CTSO clubs. What I wanted you to hear is budget and how to make these things happen and keep costs down for kids is still our goal. We're starting to realize that many districts around us, we've been holding lines that we're starting to have struggled to do, right? In terms of not having some fees or attachments. When you go away to state, the costs are going up. Hotel costs go up. Transportation costs go up. Food costs go up. So we're committed to making those as cost effective for kids as we can, but those budget issues, we're starting to get creative and starting to think about ways to do that. I just want you as a board to be aware we're trying to hold that line, but we'll have to eventually here start to go, hey, some of this cost will need families to pick up. But I think we have some mechanisms through House Bill 1660, which allows us to consider free and reduced lunch students and give them free, with ASB, and to kind of use some of that logic and apply that so our most needy families can get supported. Then just the last thing I want to let you know is the Maritime 253 Skill Center is opening this year in Tacoma. We have entered into an interlocal agreement with them as a district. I'm very excited about those CTE programs. We don't expect a ton of kids to attend, and we have a roadblock around transportation. But the Tacoma School District and their Skill Center director has been in touch with me, and I go to the governing board meetings, and so we're waiting to hear. They're trying to work with Pierce Transit to get a van out here, and they're also working with the Educational Service District locally to see if we can get a grant that I could then use some of our local CT dollars in combination with the grant if Pierce Transit falls through. So right now that transportation's on hold, but we do have kids applying, and we've got about just under 5 applications. I think we have 5, our 5th application just came in. In addition to our Bethel partnership with the Pierce County Skills Center. So those are some things that are in the works, but Chris is gonna talk about some highlights, some things that have been happening in our CT program that we're really proud of. So take it away.
Thank you. So right now, we offer programming in 14 of the 16 CTE areas, as recognized. There's some changes coming in that, and some realignment that's happening. There's a lot actually going on from the national level on down in CTE, and so we'll be seeing some changes coming over the next couple of years, which is exciting as it coincides too with the reconstruction and you know, the construction, and sort of the rebranding of some of the programs that we're gonna be able to offer. Right now, we have 50 different classes offered in the district that students can take for CTE credit. There's over 2,000 students enrolled in CTE classes if you count all the different class periods at the high school right now. A number of students that are receiving dual credits, so they're getting credit not only for high school, but that they can use for college as well. In terms of programming, our business programming has grown over the last couple of years. We're seeing growth in the areas of marketing. We're also seeing some new classes in computer science, and our leadership program is actually kind of going through a redesign where it's going to become a 2-year program that involves a higher level of engagement leading up to business management as sort of the capstone of their programming. Our careers and education classes are continuing to grow. Right now, we have student interns at all 4 schools in the district. So they're working everything from like pre-kindergarten through high school type classes. That teacher is actually working with a partner in the Puyallup School District to rewrite her frameworks for the next year that would hopefully create a new graduation pathway through education. And with that, students are taking the Parapro certification. So actually when they graduate high school, they will have the certification necessary to actually get a job if they want to, even within the Ording School District. So building opportunities for students as soon as they finish school as well. At the middle school level, we've seen 7th grade science has now been converted to a CTE program, so that's growing. And we just got word today that 3 of our middle school TSA students have qualified for state. So we're seeing not only our students at the high school level, but our middle school level is also seeing that growth as well. And to what Principal Carlson was talking about, we're being very creative with how we're getting all of these students there. But teachers are working with their groups, working with their students, working with their families to try to find ways that we can support the attainment and the enjoyment of all of these things that students have qualified for by being able to provide these extra leadership and curricular activities or co-curricular activities. So we're really excited about what's going on there. Students are also working with the staff right now to get registered for state competitions, which start, I believe, in March. We've got some that are coming up. So very soon, hopefully, in the next board recognition, you'll start to see some of those CTE groups as they prepare for and take part in their state competitions. Any questions?
I'm glad to hear about the paraprofessional thing, because I'd heard about that in a class at WASDA, and they said that they told the students that if you got your certificate here, they didn't promise a job, but they did promise an interview.
Wow.
If you completed it, then you would be eligible for an interview.
We'll talk with the director of HR and see if we can make that happen. I think we can do that.
I'm just very, very excited to see CTE growth and what it's become. It's not shop class of old. And you're talking about teaching opportunities and business opportunities and things that are so much bigger than I had the privilege, or even my kids at this point had the privilege to be able to enjoy. So I love that CTE, it's a big buzz. Parents love it, grandparents love it. It's wonderful, and I love that we are going to be having a new building to teach all these kids all this stuff. It's awesome.
And I love the way that it's an outlook where it's a dual education, where it's like say, science and agriculture. I mean, you know, where you're combining something that everybody looked at as science, but in a way that you see it in your everyday life, you know, or math or whatever the combination is. Because, I mean, really, when you're learning, you learn multiple disciplines, you know, when you're doing things. So I love that emphasis.
bigger and bigger, and we have 2 experts now in that building. So that's even better for our kids, because we have 2 pros, 2 experts.
I love that the CTE is growing the way it is, but not all students want to go to college, right? And our trades, they're suffering right now. And we need to get back to where we're doing that. And when we're heading this way and we're getting students prepared to get out in the world and make $100,000 right out of school, that's a great thing. Yep. So, yeah, super excited.
Maybe you'll get to breathe now a little bit, since you
I-
have another set of
it's,
hands there.
It's amazing, yes.
Well, I don't want to get too far without having an opportunity to thank you for growing the program.
Yes.
From where it was to where it is now is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think the volume of students, like the sheer number of students involved in our CTE program is pretty amazing. The growth has been pretty amazing to see, and so we appreciate you for getting your certification and for the 2 of you working together and continuing to grow it. I'm intrigued by Eddie Jezek's proposal and how that can potentially tie to our CTE program. We have new facilities, which I'm assuming you will be in deep conversations with how we can design that to fit the needs of the kids today and the students who are coming. So there's so much to this. It's gotten to be quite the big thing.
And because we've had it for a few years, we're starting to see the results, like, okay, Shanna Young, her son Kenny went to the skills center for mechanics. Then he went to Laramie Tech and got his certification, and now, thanks to that, he's out there, he's a diesel mechanic, so we're actually seeing kids that it has already been successful.
Well, we needed it desperately, so. That's engaging kids that otherwise wouldn't be engaged in school, because they're not interested in going to college in the next level. But you tell me I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna get out there and make some real money, like, they get excited about that. So that we're able to give them that opportunity is fantastic.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hunky.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thanks, you guys.
Board, this is, the CTE plan must be approved by the board every year, so I will take a motion.
I move to approve the Career and Technical Education Program as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. This next item is our surplus request. 3D printers, Chromebooks, and the like.
See all that?
Lots of Chromebooks.
Lots of Chromebooks. I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept the surplus request as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And last, board comments. Board, any comments?
I've been commenting all
I have one that I kind of saved for the end instead of during the acknowledgement section, but there was a lovely public post put out about the situation with impact fees and the work that's been done by our superintendent and Marcy and Cliff over there, just making sure that our community, Orting community, and the taxpayers in Orting are represented by our leaders, and asking and putting that out there. And I think one of the things that we don't get to visually see and hear about a lot as a community is the work that is done behind the scenes. And so I just kind of wanted to publicly acknowledge that great work, and some of the comments that are on those posts. Somebody said, this is one of the reasons I can vote yes for the schools, is because I know they're out there fighting for us. And so I just, the many thanks to our community, but thank you for the hard work that you and the team are putting out there to show that we're not just here always with our hand out asking for your support, but we're fighting for the community of Orting, the taxpayers, the students, the parents, the businesses.